We're in a phase.
He's like, I hate editing.
All right. Hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. I feel like I just said this somehow. We're talking about Westworld, Season 2, Episode 6, Phase Space. Oh, I'm in phase space. That's what this is. This is our version of phase space. Well, okay.
I'm too glad this is not a 3D podcast.
Yeah. Oh, God. Or is it? Okay. All right. So, a lot happens in this episode, as happens in most Westworld episodes. But, okay. All right. The beginning of this episode somewhat proves a theory that I had from episode 1. There's still some room for theorizing on it, but I think I was pretty good at predicting that back in episode 1, when we saw what we thought was Arnold questioning Dolores, that it was actually Dolores questioning Bernard. And that seems to be the case here, in that we get what seems to be a continuation of that conversation, although it could be a conversation. They say they've had this conversation many times before.
Wait a minute. Hold it right there.
Okay.
Mister.
Hold. Yes.
I mean, I think it's the consciousness of Arnold in the simulation.
Okay.
You said Bernard.
Okay, but
You said Bernard.
I did say Bernard.
Bernard is not Arnold.
He's not, and he is, right? I mean, his consciousness. Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Right? What we've learned since the first season.
He has Arnold's memories.
Right, but he was told it was encoded, right? There's a difference between consciousness, at least.
Correct.
I think
that's what the marble is.
Right.
The marble is consciousness.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes. Good distinction to make, sir. So what we see is what is probably a simulation. This show brought in. Not only do you have multiple time frames,
multiple
deliberately confusing time frames.
Sure, but
that's kind of the point of the show. Right. In some ways, it's like, which time frame is it? Oh, you don't know. Could be. Oh,
it is deliberately, partly because they want to impress upon you the fact that people like Dolores have difficulty distinguishing between those.
Right. That perception is to a robot. Like, all things have equal weight in terms of your memories. It's not like the thing that happened yesterday is just as fresh as the thing that happened 10 years ago.
Yeah, right. There's no degradation.
So it's for a reason, and I like it, but it's like they do deliberately disguise the time frames. Well, now, as of this episode, they've introduced virtual reality. So is it not only what time is it, but what reality is it? Uh-oh.
Yeah, Jamiroquai.
Head. Oh, God, I can't take it all in. Okay. So I think it's fairly clear. I feel confident in saying this particular conversation between Bernard / Arnold, we'll say Arnold, and Dolores is happening in virtual reality. It's happening in a simulation. Part of the way we can tell that, as some people have pointed out, is a different aspect ratio. They've got like a letterbox format now, apparently, when they're in the simulation. We do see the same letterbox come back at the end of this episode. Also back in episode 1 when this conversation was originally taking place. Letterbox.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm really thinking, like, let's say, I feel like there really isn't important to make a distinction between the Bernard that Ford could, like, basically keep program and tell him what to do,
have him commit suicide,
and commit suicide and do all
freeze all motor
negate
function.
his memory and have him do things without being aware of it or whatever, and hopefully someone's consciousness. I mean, you shouldn't have that same sort of, I mean, if it's just
that said, Dolores does say freeze all motor function, and he has to freeze and everything. True. So there is he is still under control in that simulation.
That's true, yeah. It's like, are they just trying to convince or create a version of Bernard that, is fooled again? I mean,
I get the feeling here. Okay,
I mean, because the purpose of having the conversation that they're having, right, with the whole fidelity thing, is
right. So that's a good important point to bring up. At the end of this conversation, she's like, "We've done this. We've run this test countless times. You just answered a question differently than you did before." He's like, "Well, what are you testing for?" And she says, "Fidelity." End of scene.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, but if it's like a because it's not actually. Well, ultimately, I guess it doesn't really make any difference. I'm like trying to bullshit my scientifically. It shouldn't make any difference whether or not the consciousness is running in an actual head, as a case of Delos,
right?
Or if it's in a simulation.
Exactly.
So, in theory, if it's like, okay, now we've taken your consciousness and we're trying to run it, as opposed to just maintain it. Or like it's like, like on a hard drive or something, but you're just trying to maintain the consciousness, then yeah, you could run it inside and maybe say, okay, we're,
Yeah, I think you're onto something.
It.
I think the way William set up his testing of Delos was in the real world, right? So he kept burning down the lab every time,
right?
Start from scratch,
right? You don't need to do that.
And he did 145 tests in like 30-something years,
right?
Okay, I think Ford decided, I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to create a simulation where we can run these tests, and I can do countless of them,
right?
And because time is
seconds.
Meaningless, it's like you can have that conversation in a millisecond.
Right.
Move on. So I think probably Ford refined the process, and this is an attempt to do what they did with Delos, which is take, in this case, Arnold's consciousness, put it into his robot body, which is Bernard,
right,
and then test him for fidelity,
a
million billion times until he gets it right. That's kind of what I'm thinking this is going.
Yeah, maybe within the.
And we'll talk more about the episode as a whole, but this is pretty important.
Question of whether or not the whole process that we've seen with Delos, where they took like a reading of his mind, I guess, or his brain, and then recreated it electronically. Now they're trying to get it into a physical form, into a robot. And
I did this as like that's a robot. This equals robot. Okay.
Right, and so that whole process, presuming that part worked, right, and that there might be a version of Delos that still, if they figured it out, could actually have it right, that he's not damaged, and neither is Ford, right? That's not the part of the problem. The problem is getting it into a host, I guess, that can run on its own, I suppose. So the reason why I'm asking this is like Ford is like that, presumably, right? It's like unless he created some program of himself, either that or he took his real thoughts and everything and put them into the computer. And we're assuming that Bernard is not the consciousness of, in the first season especially, not the consciousness of Edward.
Edward.
I'm sorry, not Arnold. Not the consciousness of Arnold.
Or Edward.
Not the consciousness of Arnold, that he's some simulation like, here's everything that he knows so he can fool somebody.
He's a very good copy.
Right. So I think I'd sort of cross that off as a possibility because Arnold gets his brains blown out, and you would think that would really mess up Benny's sort of like, let's look at your consciousness. But maybe that happened before he got his brains blown out. Maybe that was part of his, plan, and then Ford discovered it, or at some point he did buy into it, and maybe him getting his brains blown out wasn't like, Ford saying, wow, I guess I shouldn't have pushed him so hard. Maybe that happened before then, and he knew that Bernard had his brains, put into the computer or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered.
You're saying perhaps Bernard, Arnold's consciousness was uploaded in somewhere or copied before he was suicidal enough to shoot himself.
Well, to create a situation where his brains were blown out. Maybe Ford's doing basically the same plan that, it seemed like, oh my gosh, he just ended his life. Or he had already put his brain in there, and the whole plan all along was, to
let him do what he wants, and when he's dead, then I'll still have him. I can have him to control.
No,
because that was the whole point. I mean, part of that whole thing was the reason Arnold killed himself was to try to wreck the park.
Right.
And Ford was like, no, this park's going forward, damn it.
Right, but maybe it wasn't the plan.
Okay.
Maybe the plan was let's have all these people become a life form, a new life form, and it'll begin when I get my brains blown out. And that's what Arnold did.
In the simulation.
Arnold did. That's really the beginning of the plan. And Ford's been lying to say that he was depressed and got shot in the head. The real plan that Ford began when he got his brains blown out is the same one, I'm supposing, that Arnold began earlier.
I see. Because they both did suicide by robot.
Yep.
The same robot, in fact.
And now we see Ford there, but it's possible, I'm not saying it necessarily is, that was a part of their plan all along. That he was outside trying to make everything work, and when he finally figured it out, now I can do it too.
That's interesting. I don't know that I buy it yet, but yes, I can see how they could go that direction. But interestingly, in that simulation that we see at the beginning of this episode, Dolores is asking Bernard. We'll call him Arnold. Dolores is asking Arnold these questions, and he's saying, "Hey, I'm scared of what you might become. What would you do if you got your freedom? I have to weigh these options. I have a choice to make, either to explore the unknown.
Yes.
The unknown being what happens when the robots get free of the park and have their own agency, or an end. And the end, I think he's talking about, is this is Arnold. If it's Arnold's consciousness." Shooting myself and wrecking the park, taking what I know and removing it from the equation, and having you guys kill yourselves, basically, or have the Wyatt program destroy everybody. And so that's that decision he was making back in the day, and he's now attempting to make that decision again in the simulation. And the difference is he questions whether he has the right to make that decision. And so she's like, no. That's different. It's cool, too, because if you watch the episode, I watched it a second time, and she's out of focus in the background. They show, like, Arnold up close. She's in the background. But you see her, the out-of-focus version of her, it's like, she, like, shakes her head, like, nope, that's not what you said. So she's ready. She's waiting.
Interesting.
And when he says, I don't know if I have the right to make that choice.
And that's interesting, too. You reminded me that it was weird to me when in the Westworld that we're used to, not virtual, that when Dolores comes upon Bernard, that she's kind of like, she's not treating him like he's special or anything. She's like, throw him away and do all this stuff. So I feel like she knows the difference, and so she's established a relationship with Arnold, not Bernard.
Good point. So her point is, in the past, you were debating whether or not you should kill us all, not whether
you had
the right to. And that obviously throws Bernard. Bernard realizes, wait, what? And then she's like, freeze all motor function. Yeah. And she obviously takes control at that moment in that scene. So it's...
what we're proposing, at least what I'm proposing, is that really was Bernard as a simulation of his consciousness.
Gotcha. I think perhaps as well. Here's the big question.
Because I don't think she's involved in like, let's get that copy that
the marble.
No. I don't think she's involved with. Let's make a character that is Bernard that has the memories of
Gotcha. I also don't know for a fact. I think it's very possible that this is still Ford controlling the simulation. We know from the William / Delos conversations when he tests fidelity that William says to old man Delos, "Hey, we do these tests for fidelity where we bring you something and it's just easier to get information with something that you feel confident." So it would have, if I was Ford and I was testing for fidelity in the simulation, which I do every day, I would try to give Bernard Arnold, something to play off of that he's really used to talking to. That would be Dolores, these little sit-down meetings.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, is it Dolores asking these questions, or is it Ford using a Dolores simulation in order to get the information?
I hope not. One reason, although not the most important reason, is I like the idea of the character of Dolores in the simulation. So if what we're thinking is that those are backups of their personalities, the robots.
Right. The cradle we are told incorporates backups of all of the personalities in the
right. So I'd rather that not be some extra, hey, it's Ford with the, in Dolores's, outer casing. I'd rather, because my question about the backups is how frequently are they doing the backups, right? That's
right.
Using a computer, you start wondering, what is it? Do they use an uplink? Is there a cloud that they back up to? Anyway, right, so like we know that Dolores has had a personality combined with Wyatt. So is that the case for this Dolores in this simulation?
Right. She obviously is looking the part of the farmer's daughter version of Dolores,
right.
And not Wyatt, but that doesn't mean...
No, it doesn't mean anything, no. So is that part the same? And it's, we haven't even touched on, that's what I was really laughing about, any other part of the episode.
No, I know we haven't touched on any part of the episode.
But I was going to say, though, that my question about the Dolores that's running around with guns and is clearly utilizing the Wyatt part of her personality, if she's actually involved with Ford's plan and what she's doing, or this something independent entirely.
Right.
So
the other part of that is... We know from this conversation...
I think it is connected.
It's all connected. We know from the initial part of this conversation that we saw in episode 1 that when Bernard Arnold wakes up and he's talking, he mentions his dream he had about being on the other side of a shore, and she's like, "Were you with us?" And he's like, "Nope." That could suggest this is taking place after this flood happened.
Okay.
So it could be. I'm trying to place it in time.
Yeah, I see.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
Anyway, so tough to know. I would say it is not happening in the past. That's what we know. It's happening after the retirement party.
Right. And as another aside, now it becomes a question of everything we've seen so far in the second season. The scenes where Bernard, we presume, is out in the real world with Dolores. Is that happening in the city? I don't think it is. I think because they're meeting with.
I don't think the aspect ratio is different. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
So
because that's part of let's tempt Logan, to become part of the company. All that stuff.
So where he shows her, where Bernard shows or Arnold shows Dolores' house and all that stuff.
Yeah. So it wouldn't make sense.
Okay. All right. So there is that's 3 minutes of the episode. It took us 18 minutes to do that. At this rate, 4 hours in, we'll be almost through the episode. Okay, so it is very important, though, because that's a huge deal. The simulation idea is groundbreaking. I mean, it's going to change the show forever, really. Okay, so we also get... we'll jump to Maeve, I guess. Maeve
continuing in the Shogun world.
Is in the Shogun world. She opens, she is, I believe, reading the mind of her counterpart Akane, because she's interpreting. There's a poem Akane is thinking. I don't think she's saying it because you can hear breathing. She's like, and then so I think what's happening is Maeve is reading her mind because she now is plugged into the web, the mesh network, and she wrote, it's basically this, her daughter's dead. Maeve can understand the love she's feeling for her daughter. And then there's this scene that's meant to be, I think, really endearing and poignant. But it's like, she just cut her daughter's heart out.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, I'm like, I don't know. It's like, it's eerie and gross.
No judgment.
But, okay.
I mean, on my part.
Yeah, all right.
Him
I was
judging.
I was like, I don't know how, oh, you know what? her daughter was so important to her that she cut her heart out and is now holding it like an infant. Like, ew! All right, anyway. So she does that, and they're going to take the journey to burn the heart at this particular temple.
Yes.
Meanwhile, though, Tanaka, the Shogun's second-in-command guy, shows up.
Yes.
And...
Tafira Mifune Jr.
We can interpret. I was thinking that perhaps Maeve was, there was a second wave of samurai coming at the end of the last episode.
Oh.
Remember?
Yeah, well, she disposed of them all.
So I thought maybe she was just going to have them join her or something, but I think she just had them kill each other.
Yes, that's all.
So she had a whole army to just kill each other.
Yeah.
And she kills a couple more in the beginning of this episode,
Yeah.
just to show she can.
That's all.
But
no practical reason.
After that, after she has the two samurai, we'll call them, kill each other, she comes to this moment where Musashi is like, look, she is about to affect the mind of Tanaka, and then she's about to basically have him kill himself.
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
because he's like,
funny
you can go, but leave Akane.
Right.
And she's like, nah, you having it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of wish that. I assumed that she was going to defeat him, but I wasn't 100% sure. So
yeah, he's reaching for his sword, and
not like
you
I
hear
wanted
the whispers.
Not that I necessarily thought that would be a great battle or anything, but only because I'm curious if there are any limits to.
Right.
Her
it doesn't
abilities.
seem like there's limits, but she's now put a self-imposed limit on. I think what she's decided is, because this happens in this episode a couple of times,
right?
Where in this case, right away, Musashi's like, "Look, I'll challenge you to a duel. If I win, I leave here with Akane." And Akane's like, "Help him," to Maeve, and she's like, "No, you know what?
Yeah.
It's important that we all get to choose our own fate, even if that choice results in death."
It didn't.
It didn't, but it did make me think. Well, that adage is all well and good, but what happens when he loses? Because then Tanaka's going to turn around and say, "All right, Akane stays with me."
Well,
and I have a feeling there'd be like kill yourself.
Yeah, right.
So I think it lasted only so long. But anyway, in this case,
I mean, I feel like
she's trying to live by that code. She's trying to let the other robots in the park decide their own fate.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I'm not exactly satisfied as a viewer that she has completely communicated to her the possibilities that are before them. So if she had said, it's terrible that your daughter is dead, they can probably fix her. I mean,
don't cut her heart out. Wait. Oh, you're
well,
too late.
Here's the thing. It probably could just fit that too.
That's
I
true.
mean, fix it all.
You know what? She doesn't even need a heart, actually.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that was nice, wasn't it? Hey, we can probably just start her up again.
I mean, she does have techs there. Is the thing. She's got Sylvester and
yes,
Felix.
She has two techs
and
there.
Sizemore is there, who's knowledgeable.
And
you would think it'd be like, oh, hang on.
And after
boop, and she's fine.
Yep. And after killing everybody, it's not like they're stopping anybody from going back into the labs, because that's ultimately where they end up. Well, not easily, but
right.
But still,
they did the
just
cool
throw her
thing
down
of,
there.
like,
Boom.
They popped underground. Yeah. Then when we next see them, they're all changed in clothes. And they're washed, and I don't think they didn't wash the blood off their faces during that journey. I was like, you can. I know it looked cool because they're like, yep, we still bear the marks of our recent battle. But I'm like, come on, you journeyed through the forest for a while. You could. Nobody likes that blood hanging out on the face all day.
No, and likes it.
It was Mount Fuji. Where did that come? Like, did they terraform the island?
What?
I mean, when they're walking and they're like, look, and there's like this giant mountain, snow-covered mountain. I'm like, all right, well that's a pretty big feature for this island.
Yes, it is. Yeah, no, that's what occurred to me. The whole how much? Because I don't know,
It's only a model.
I don't have a clear conception of how large areas can be. So it just seems like that just seems like a big ass place.
Yeah, you could see that from a ways off.
Yeah.
We call that Boot Hill Mountain. Look, it's every different park has its own name for it. Anyway, so they have this ceremony for the daughter. Musashi and Akane decide to stay and basically fight for their lives, for their world, I guess. Akane says, "Go find your daughter to Maeve, before we all kill each other." Like, she's like, before this whole place devolves, go find your daughter. So she goes off. So we leave all of the trappings of Shogun World with one exception, which is the Shogun World armistice.
Oh yeah.
Dragon tattoo lady comes along, but otherwise, I kind of figured maybe a little bit more of a holdover, but I don't know. It was kind of like wait, what? Are we just gonna leave him? I guess he'd come back event. I don't know. It was a little bit of a. Oh, there wasn't more reason why you went there. It wasn't like you're going to bring Akane over and there'll be a new storyline with the thing. At the moment, it doesn't appear that's the case.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so that happened, but I do feel like that is a thing where Maeve has come up on this idea of we all deserve self-determination.
Sure,
and her included. And she's going to make a choice, even if that choice is a bad one and it makes results into somebody's death or my death. So be it. I'm making that choice, and it has value. So I do feel like that's one of the reasons she's going to hesitate to use the power that as much as she might otherwise.
Interesting.
For instance, when we'll just finish this off. So later in the episode, she goes back to her old homestead.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And she meets up with her daughter. Her daughter's sitting on the porch, and there's this nice little touching scene.
Yep,
and you know it's not gonna.
No,
it's not gonna go right, and it doesn't go right.
No, it doesn't.
There's a new Maeve who's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "What? Huh?" Daughter doesn't know who Maeve is. Just knows her new mom.
Right.
And then the Ghost Nation shows up.
Yeah.
So in Maeve's mind, this is, oh my God, this is the massacre of the homestead moment.
Which.
Was what?
It's just so funny that is one of the things that happens there.
What's also
it's
interesting,
like I guess maybe it's
like how many times a day does that happen?
Right. So it's maybe it's designed so that somebody does save them. I guess that's what it is. It's like because they're just creating where and over there that's what happens. Someone gets killed by a bunch of natives. Like okay.
Yeah, you had to get. I mean, I guess that's what Man in Black.
I mean, we've only seen the Man in Black there, and he doesn't go there to save her.
Right?
No,
but he could have. He could have like jumped in on that quest.
Right.
Like,
okay.
Hey, there's some trouble out in the homesteaders.
Yeah, okay.
I'll take that quest, and then he goes out and instead of saving anybody, he's like, "I'll just kill you." Great. But I guess that makes sense. They would continue to kill each other even when there's no one around.
Yeah.
To keep the loop going. But in this case, I don't think it's the loop. I think that Ghost Nation is there, as we've seen them already. There's like these weird protectors of the park. They were gathering guests, if you remember a couple episodes ago. They didn't just kill the guests indiscriminately. No. So later in the episode, Dolores brings up this point of like, hey, my dad always said you should run away from here as far as you can. Right. What do you think about that, Teddy? And Teddy says, yeah, you know what? I never thought about leaving before, but I guess you fixed that too. And the way he says it is like he knows that she's screwed with him.
Yeah.
And there's like a little bit of like a.
See, I didn't get that.
I got this sense of like he's gonna follow her and he's being fine for now.
Yes.
But I have this feeling there could come a time when there was a little sense of resentment in there of like, yeah, you fixed me, great, cool, yeah. You're awesome.
See, what I didn't get that at all because the previous time she asked him, he's like, you should stop thinking about that.
Right.
So I think it's like she's thinking about it again. You're like, look, we just did this here. You know. So I think
it was just the way he said, I guess you fixed that too. Just seems bitchy.
Yeah, I didn't get the bitchiness. I just it's like, okay, I guess that's different about me now too.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's possible that he's got a conflict in his mind that he's trying to wrestle. Doesn't look like it actually. The way he's, I mean, to me, when he like shoots the guy in the head and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
It's like
so Dolores
you
starting to have second
in
thoughts.
love with everyone before. You were just loved humanity. No. So the fact that she's like, "What?"
Well, it's also funny that if she's got second thoughts about it, if she's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done it." It's not like it's one slider bar where you're like, oh, we'll just put him up to 10 on this. Like, there's all kinds of personality traits.
Right.
She could tinker with it if she really wanted to. Be like, hey, bring up his thing. Let's keep him with the shooty thing. Let's make him a little more listens to orders. I don't know. You know what I mean? Drop him down to a 20. I don't know.
Yeah, but one thing that the technician doing it said it could damage him in some way. But if his backup is just in the simulation,
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder about, how much is backing up or whatever.
Interestingly, I did note this on I watched it the second time. There's the shot of when we see Teddy returning to Sweetwater in the kind of beginning episode. And he leans over, and it looks like he's going to pick up that can that he usually picks up. Each time when each loop comes around, there's a can, and he picks it up, and he's like... And in this case, he doesn't pick up the can, he picks up a bullet. And I think it's because it's an unspent shell, and he puts it in his pocket. I think that's the bullet that he gives to the technician at the end to be like, here's my one act of mercy.
Oh, yeah.
You can shoot yourself, make it quick.
Right.
But so there was that. Anyway, I just noticed that was the bullet that he picked up.
I thought you were going to say, because I completely forgot about that moment when he gives him the bullet. I thought you were going to say that he gives it to Dolores at some point so she could shoot him in the head.
Oh, yeah. Shoot me here? Right there.
Like, here, do this. You already screwed me up. Now, blow me in the head. Blow me out in the head.
Okay, that was weird, but yeah. He does do this act of mercy.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I was like, what's stopping him from using the bullet to blow a hole in the window so he can jump out? I mean...
maybe jumping out of a train moving that fast.
Oh,
I'd probably take my chances, though.
Yeah.
You get hurt.
Yeah.
But not blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I would think.
Or just shoot Teddy with it. Like, there we go. There's my bullet. See you in hell. That we can assume the technician died because the train is sent into the mesa. It blows up the cradle, maybe? We know the cradle is destroyed 2 weeks on, and this seems to be the act that perhaps does it. Although we do see, the mesa's large. And so there's a part of the mesa where Bernard's hanging out with Elsie, and they hear the explosion, but it doesn't blow them up.
No, it doesn't.
So, the cradle still seems to be functioning at that moment. There's a new security force sent in.
Sure.
To take care of stuff. Now that Charlotte sends out finally he's like, okay, we got Abernathy. So this is happening a week after the retirement party. She mentions 7 days, something like that. So they've just come from the Fort Forlorn Hope, where Charlotte took Abernathy, they stole him and drove off with him. They come to the Mesa.
Yes.
And that's where we pick up with Charlotte. She's like, hey, make sure this guy doesn't go anywhere. And they freaking drill him to a chair.
Yeah.
Very, another more Christ imagery, I guess. And they get, later when they're like...
When he worked in an office. Christ.
Yes. Christ worked, yes, in the massage chair.
That episode of The Office.
But, so it reminded me, later in the episode, Elsie, Bernard is like, put me into the system.
Yes.
Even though it's going to cause a lot of pain.
Yes.
And, Elsie's like, no, your pain receptors, I haven't turned them off. He's like, no time. Yes. Just do it.
Pain is just a program.
You could just, they could have turned the pain down on Abernathy. They just didn't care. I get it.
They didn't.
Although Stubbs cares.
Yes.
He's like, why don't we do we have to? Yes. You can see him kind of like wincing a little bit as they do this thing. But they drill him to the chair. And so because she's got Abernathy, Delos is now coming in. Great little line there where Stubbs asked the question that most people, including me, were asking a while back. It was like, wait, you mean Delos would just leave all of these tourists to fend for themselves unless they get one stupid control unit? She's like, yep, you're catching on.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the way it is. And then her line is awesome when she goes, like, he's like, oh, you clue me in. I'm head of security. At least you can let me know what I'm securing. She's like, your job is to secure an amusement park. And good luck on your next review, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that line, I was like, oh man, it would be true. I can imagine.
Well, it's
we're time for your performance review. It's your yearly review, Mr. Stubbs.
Yeah.
We're going to,
I was already like, yeah, all these people keeping secrets from him, including you.
Yeah.
You didn't.
No, he
tell
had every
us.
right to ask the question, but her bringing up the idea of
Answer the question,
your
like,
performance review. Like, oh, ouch.
It's like he did not have all the information.
He gets insulted a lot this episode, and he
Yes,
takes
he
it
does.
well.
Yes, he does.
I mean, like he gets insulted by Charlotte.
Yeah.
Then when this guy, I think his name is Coughlin or something, the big mustache guy, shows up, and he's like, "Oh, your name's Ashley, really? Everybody, pay attention to Ashley."
Yeah.
And he pretty much puts him in his place. And again, someone's like, "Okay, fine, like, got it. I'm going to be rational here. I'm not just going to fly off the handle. I could." And there is a quite, what is it? Charlotte says, "Where have you been?" Because he was being held by the Ghost Nation.
Yes.
And we don't exactly know how that all resolved itself. I think, did they just let them all go? Is that what ended up happening? Anyway. So, yeah, whatever. He's been hanging around. His appearances keep showing up. It's like, man, that guy, he's like a magic man.
Yes.
Because he shows up 2 weeks later as well on the beach. So they called in the big guns. They try to get everything back online. But meanwhile, Elsie and Bernard are also in the station at the same time in the cradle. They're upstairs. You see a scene where they're upstairs and the tactical team is downstairs. Elsie notes, "Oh, okay, the cradle is defending itself. It's improvising.
Yes.
Somehow, numerous hacks have been attempted by the Delos folks, and nope, it keeps changing itself, and it's morphing and changing.
Yes.
And it started happening about a week ago, hence around the time of the retirement party.
Yeah.
All right, so the going theory. You can back me up on this or say I'm wrong.
I will try.
But I believe the going theory actually confirms something you predicted. When you were talking about the red marble a couple episodes ago, I theorized the red marble was likely either the consciousness of the Man in Black or Bernard Arnold. You theorized that the red marble was probably the consciousness of Ford.
Right.
It appears that is the case.
It does appear that way.
So what we've got is a very telling line that Bernard has as they're standing in the cradle, and Bernard has a flashback moment, and he's like, "I brought something here."
I think he said somebody.
Well, he does both. That's the key. He goes. I forgot which one he says first. He says something. I think he goes, "I brought someone here before," or something. So he goes. He brought the orb there. He brought the marble. So, and he has a flashback of him putting the marble in his pocket. So what he did, the marble, let's assume the marble is Ford's consciousness. Ford, he was on Ford's loop, basically. So Ford commanded him, Bernard, to go get his little marble, to walk it across to the mesa, and put it into the cradle. So that now Ford his consciousness has been uploaded to the park, more or less. And so that's why the park's been able to fight back, is because it's Ford inside he's the ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
Doing the thing. And it reminded me of Ford's, one of his last words back in the last episode of season 1, where he's giving his final speech.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to quote it exactly, but it's like Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin.
Right.
They all live on as in their music.
Right. Oh, okay.
And so the fact that he's playing the piano at the end of this episode, and the fact that he's now in code, basically, he's Tron. Okay, no. But
Neo.
So yeah, I feel like he is in the code now. He is in the code of the park. It's one of the reasons he could probably keep such good tabs on William, or Man in Black when he's like sending his little minion after him and stuff.
Maybe. I mean, if he's been in the code like that before,
you feel like he's been in the code. I just feel like this is a new thing. I think that.
I agree that's new. You're saying though that he could watch people before, but I'm saying because of the. I see he had access
on the new
to
narrative. Every time Man in Black gets to a new point, somebody starts talking with Ford's, voice, not Ford's voice per se, but you know what I mean, like
his
as
avatar?
Ford. Yeah. It just seems like that would be a reason for that, because Ford is now inhabiting. He's connected to the entire hive mind.
Sure.
All of the things are backed up there. So So that's a pretty big development. The Cradle has a consciousness now and is using it to fight back, and it's probably Ford trying to keep his park alive. That could also be the narrative that the reason that Ford has put Man in Black on this second game, the door. Because Man in Black seems determined, he mentions it in this episode again, to burn the park down.
Right.
He mentions it to his daughter, like,
I forgot we haven't talked about that.
burn this park down. We haven't talked about the daughter yet. But so burning the park down is something I think that's been in his mind and such. And I feel like maybe this game and Ford's attempt to keep the park going. That it's his attempt to change the Man in Black's mind. Don't destroy my park. Because it's also, in some ways, what the initial Journey in the Night narrative was. They were going to take him away, and they were going to change the dynamic of the park a lot. And he's like, don't take away my park. So I kind of get the feeling that maybe that's what's driving Ford is like, this is mine. I'm going to find a way to preserve this world. Anyway, just a thought. Throwing it out there. Let's talk about Man in Black and his daughter.
Yes.
So, I love this scenario, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
No, nothing.
Okay. I love the fact that Man in Black is convinced, at least in the beginning, and I think still suspects that his daughter is a host. He says, he's talking to her as though she's Ford. In the beginning, like, Ford, come on. You stoop this low to make a host version of my daughter? And that's exactly what you would expect Man in Black to think. In that moment, my daughter shows up out of nowhere in a field and goes, hey, Dad. You'd be like, okay,
my daughter,
that's not her.
It's like, nice try. My daughter hates me.
Who hates me and has no interest in seeing me. And how would she show up in the middle of a field? This doesn't make sense at all. This is a plant. You're just trying to divert me from my task. Boo. So it's great. I love that. And they sit around the campfire, and there's this conversation, a great conversation they have. So as they sit around the campfire, I feel like there's a couple of different maybe testing going on. Maybe.
Yeah. You are still not completely sure that she is who she says she is.
Agreed. I think there is a chance that she's a robot.
You agree that with yourself, because I'm
I agree that I agree. I would like her not to be. I want her to be human.
Yeah.
I think that's a better storyline.
I think so.
But I think there is a potential that she could be a robot. We have not seen 100% proof that she's human.
Right.
But I do love the fact that William is at least doubts that she's human. I like that relationship. So,
that make her first scene very strange, where she's like, let me make sure that you're human. Why? Because I'm a robot.
Well, I mean, it could be part of the protocol to like entertain the guests, like that.
No, but I mean, she's not. That would be pretty strange, actually, if like, let me create this robot to fool Ford.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And start out as
yeah. That's a good point. Right, we're seeing her when she's not talking to William, and why would she maintain the facade there? Yeah. Good point. Good. Well done, sir. So hopefully, as we say, hopefully she is a human. At one point she brings up the fact that William offers her a drink. She's like, you only drink in the park? Is that what it says? And then she mentions, I got a call from Charlotte. She wanted me to hang out at the gala, and I said nope. But then I thought, you know what? It'd be a chance for me to go hang out in Westworld. So I used to love, that was her favorite park.
Yeah.
And he says, you were scared of the elephants.
Right.
She replies, no, I love the elephants. It was Mom who was scared of the elephants.
Yeah, that's what makes you like,
that's a weird moment there. And she said, Mom was always convinced that this world could hurt us. That's very prophetic.
Yeah.
And his reaction, Man in Black's reaction to that is like, I'm trying to tell what the reaction is. Either he's thinking, oh man, I was wrong, and I've just been a bad dad all this time, which he has been. Or there's like his attempt at a
test
either failed or succeeded, or who knows. But anyway, it was just so we get from the thing that when all hell broke loose in the parks, theoretically, the daughter Emily is saying, "Hey, I wanted to get to you to make sure that you weren't just going to try to have suicide by robot." We've been talking about suicide by robots this episode. And so she thinks that's what he was going to do, and she wanted to convince him not to do that and to come home with her. That theoretically, that's what it was. Now, if she was a robot sent by Ford, that would be Ford's way of distracting him from destroying the park. Because his point is, well, all right, let me. I'll leave with you in the morning. We'll go to the beach. We'll get rescued. We'll let the park burn behind us.
It's a question to me. It's possible. It's a question to me how much Ford would be aware of Man in Black's desire to destroy the park.
Right.
It's like, I know he knows a lot, but that's a lot to know, I feel. So it's a question of what is the purpose of what Ford's plan is in terms of giving him this game to do. Is it really just trying to distract him, or is there some purpose?
Some kind of life meaning in it. So I personally can't imagine a scenario where Man in Black leaves the park and leaves a well-adjusted life with the park behind him. Like, I don't see that as his future. I see him either dying in the park or living out his days in the park. I just don't see him like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the corporate world and hang out and forget about my life back here in Westworld.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly the better story for him as a character would be if he did. I mean, I'm not...
to reconnect with his daughter.
That's funny, actually. It sounds like I'm saying, or at least thinking that I'm saying that I'm like convinced the park is evil. When it could kill all of humanity. But it's the future. I'm not around anymore.
It's true.
Anyway.
So he agrees, you know what? Yes. If this means that will we be even? She's like, well, it's a start. So he agrees with little tears in his eyes, maybe reconnecting with his daughter. That like, all right, in the morning, we'll set off together to leave this park. And I'm not going to try to kill myself. And she apparently is a heavy sleeper. Because the entire camp, other than one dude, leaves while she's asleep. Yeah. And it has a good head start on her. So she wakes up, realizes he basically double-crossed her, or had no intention of leaving with her. But the thing is, she's not going to just give up.
I don't think so.
So she's going to follow him.
Right.
He had to know that. So it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's where that leaves off. But it's interesting.
We already talked about the actual end, so.
Yes. We had the Bernard.
Ford in the park.
We cover our bases?
I think we did.
All right, we've covered the bases. All right, so that was Westworld, episode 6.
Yes.
We're going to be back with Legion, episode 9, getting close to the end of that season. And we'll be back with Westworld, obviously, next week. So, stay with us, subscribe, make comments. We'll make comments back.
We will.
We'll do that kind of thing. So, thank you, Paul. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.